We are making a cake out of clay and we are starting right now. What's up you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny and I am that props girl. If you have watched any of my videos, then you will know that I have done a lot of fake cakes over my time on YouTube. There's one here beside me from my video from last week, and if you haven't checked that out, be sure to check it out after you watch this video. And if you're interested in seeing more tutorials on how to make fake food, then feel free to browse this playlist. Now be sure to stick around until the end of this video because I've got a little tip at the end that is a complete game changer and you don't want to miss it. So with all that said and done, grab your clay and let's get started. So today I'm using Crayola's air dry clay, and the reason I'm using air dry clay and not polymer clay is because even though it takes a really long time to dry, it's actually a lot cheaper in the long run. For a tub that size, I paid about 20 Australian dollars, and for just a little tiny piece of polymer clay, I was paying $5 for just this much. And I know a little goes a long way, but really, I just think you're getting more bang for your buck. All that said and done, we're going to jump in, we're going to grab our air drying clay, and I have got a rolling pin here. Now mine is actually a rolling pin that I use in my house. I need to get one specifically for my prop baking, but I haven't had a chance yet, so I've actually just wrapped some Glad wrap around this, and I'm just going to use my hands and a spoon to get the clay out. Now we need a fair bit of it because the cake that I'm making is going to be pretty thick, and depending on how solid a cake you want to make, how dense, how tall, will depend on how much clay that you need. And yes, it's a little bit heavier of a product and you do have to hand paint it and all that sort of stuff, so there's a little bit more work that's involved with using air drying clay, but I think it works really well in this instance. Now that I've got my desired amount of clay, I'm just going to roll it up in a little bit of a ball. I'm not going to knead it too much because air drying clay doesn't need kneading, but I'm just going to roll it up here, and then I'm going to get my rolling pin and roll it out to the desired thickness. Now I don't want it to be too thin, so I'm actually going to just take this and fold it over on itself to make it a bit thicker. Now I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to cut down just across here to make a triangle like that. That's not very even, but just to make a triangle. I'm sure yours will be more even than mine. That I'm going to cut down there. So you can see it's almost into thirds, not quite, but almost there. And now that I have 3 pieces, I personally am going to stack them on top of each other. You don't have to do this, but this is what I'm going to do to build it up and to make it look like a layered cake. I'm wanting to go with a bit of a mud cake kind of feel, and I understand that it's overlapping there. You don't have to worry, we're going to fix that one. So I'm going to put the thickest one on the bottom. You can kind of press it down and mold it as best you can, obviously. If they're not going to be 100% even, and that's fine. It's going to look like a home-baked cake, and that's fine. That's the vibe I'm going with. Once they're in this sort of format, you can press them and shape them as much as you want, but they're still going to keep those distinct layers there, which is what I want. So I'm just going to press that, mold that as best I can. Now with this extra overhang here at the back, I'm going to just press that in there. Like that, and I'm not too worried about that bit because I'm going to cover it with icing anyway. My mother always used to say icing hides everything, and that is the case today. Now if you want this to be a little bit more textured, you can actually go in and press something into the clay before you let it set, and that can be sandpaper, it can be rolled up foil, you could get a brush like a toothbrush and dab it in there. There are so many ways that you could make texture, it just depends on how much texture you really want. You can also do what I did in my last video and use a sponge to dab on the paint. It's totally up to you. The options are limitless, but as I said, just a little tip on how to make it look a bit more textured and a bit more realistic. Now I've got one that I prepared earlier that's already set that I'm going to use, but keep watching until the end because the tips that I share with you then really affect the end product. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to give it a little like to let me know that you are enjoying this, and maybe pop a comment down below to today's question of the video, which is, what's your favorite flavor of cake? Mine personally, I can't go past a caramel, and if you want to see more of this content, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell next to the subscribe button to be notified whenever I upload. So I actually ran out of the color that I wanted to use to paint it, so I'm going to go in with a red ochre and a burnt sienna and a black to try and make a really dark brown. So now that I've got my colour, I'm going to go in and just paint it all over the whole thing and then set it aside to dry. I've also got this just sitting on some baking paper, 1, because it's non-stick, and 2, so I don't get the paint all over the table. Okay, so now that that's dry, I'm going to take my favourite wall filler, as always, and I'm going to put a bit of that in a container and I'm going to mix it in again with the same dark colour paint. Now that this looks like icing, we're going to scrape that over the cake like we would with normal icing. Once we're done with the brown, I'm going to go back in with that wall filler and I'm going to go in between the layers to make cream. And this is very much like painting. You don't need that much, you just need enough to sit on the cake. I like to just go in with a little bit first, just on the side of my tool here, and then I'll go back in over it and press it in place so it makes it a bit thicker. Make sure that it's actually sitting in that crease there to get a well-defined line. I'm going to go in now and cover all of that with some Mod Podge. And now for those of you who have stuck around to this point, this is the tip that I was talking about. This is the difference between a cake that has been sealed with Mod Podge and one that hasn't. This one here that is featured is one that I've made previously. You can see that it is cracked and you're getting a lot of gaps. But this one that we've just done has been completely covered in Mod Podge and it's fine. So make sure that when you are creating cakes that you do cover them in your Mod Podge. This one definitely looks more like a mud cake than this one. This one looks more like a sponge cake. And of course, that's what I base them off. This one is a lot heavier and it took longer to make than this one. Now, if you are keen to see me make more things with clay, then stay tuned for my next video because I'm going to be making waffle cone ice creams out of clay and I can't wait for you to see it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all of my future uploads. And also, if you want to see some of my projects throughout the week, hop on over to my Instagram and see what's happening over there. And if you'd like to have a say in the content that I have on this channel, then leave a comment down below. I'll see you next time. Bye.